The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Our website this morning, I think this is indeed one of those mornings. Now, last week, yet another page in the Who is Barack Obama, I guess, book, diary, ongoing story, never-ending tale, turns or drops again. And part of this unexplained mystery is this strange new name, Suibarka, or Suibarka. And just as an aside, because Jerry's coming up on the radio show, Corsi told me this story 3-4 years ago. Oh, my God. It was like we killed their family dog. And the things that were said to me about having Jerry on said directly to Jerry, we were the worst people in the world. Well, guess what? Now, under FOI, Freedom of Information, we got the applications are there. The story is pretty lengthy, but it is bizarre. So this video shows up. I get the call. This video drops. We have it up right now on our website, 710knus.com. It must be seen to be believed. At the same time, the audio is really special, especially when it comes to the end. Boom, it's the payoff, because yet there's another MacGuffin. But you can have it. You can lift it right off of our website, send it to 100 of your friends. The more people who see this, the better it will be. Now, of course, I don't think this is the key that unlocks the door by any stretch of the imagination. What this is more of the same. But now you can see the docs themselves. Watch this, 710knus.com. Really well done. Please go to our website, 710knus.com. Watch this, lift it, and send it to somebody that you think deserves to at least take a look at it. And then Jerry's coming up. If you would, Case.
Resourced and documented article at AmericanThinker.com titled Barack Hussein Sobarka by Jason Kistner, we find some amazing discoveries regarding the identity problem of Barack Hussein Obama. Jason Kistner is an associate professor of criminology at California State University, Fresno. Following is an edited synopsis of that article with an absolutely surprising find by the P.P. Simmons staff at the end of this video. One of the unexplained mysteries in the all but missing documentation of the early life of Barack Obama is the appearance of the name Sobarka as his last name on an official document filled out by his mother. We are in possession of Stanley Ann Dunham Sotoro's 1968 application to extend her 1965 passport for an additional 2 years. Her passport, by the way, is now reportedly destroyed. On the second page of the application, Ann Dunham attempted to exclude her son Barack Obama, or Sobarka, from her passport, but the item has been crossed out, perhaps on the advice of the consulate in Jakarta, as this would have left 7-year-old little Barry passportless, so the exclusion did not happen. The appendage Sobarka seems to indicate a name change or a change in citizenship status for the boy. But there is a very good and surprisingly simple explanation for the seemingly random appearance of the name Sobarka on Obama's mother's passport application. Believe it or not, the reason appears to be linked to Loretta Fuddy. That's right. The same Loretta Fuddy, the Hawaii State Health Director who approved the release of Obama's long-form birth certificate and who recently and mysteriously died in a plane crash off the coast of Molokai. Obama's mother and Loretta Fuddy have one very strange factor in common. Both have been directly linked to the Subud cult, which originated in, of all places, Indonesia, and was founded by the Javanese Muslim Muhammad Sabu. The small cult appears to have around 20,000 members worldwide. Fuddy's cult member name was Diliana. Her official position was regional helper. Note also that the World Subud organization seems to have been based in, of all cities, Chicago. Wow, think about it. Indonesia, Chicago, Hawaii, 3 locales linked directly and very importantly to Obama's life. We also know from a Hawaii Advertiser article that Subud was introduced to Hawaii in the 1960s. Obama's mother was directly linked to Subud by her biographer and New York Times reporter Janie Scott in the book A Singular Woman, The Untold Story of Barack Obama's Mother. This book was reviewed by the New York Times, so this is a heavily documented fact. Loretta Fuddy worked her way up the ranks and became chairwoman of Subud USA, based in Seattle, from 2006 to 2008. But note that of all the persons that could have been installed as director of the State Department of Health in Hawaii, Hawaii chose Fuddy, a leader of a small cult with roots in Indonesia and connections to Barack Obama's mother. Secondly, remember that Fuddy assumed the directorship position in Hawaii in January 2011 after being appointed by Hawaii's governor just a few months before the release of Obama's long-form birth certificate. Changing one's name for spiritual reasons was something frequently done by followers of the cult Subud, and Stanley Ann Sotoro was in fact closely associated with Subud. We know that. It is reasonable then to suppose that Sobarka, the name chosen for Obama on that passport, arose in the same way new names for others, like Deliana Loretta Fuddy did. But remember that the name Sobarka appears in the passport renewal section labeled amend to include or exclude children. The name Barack Hussein Obama Sobarku is crossed out. This signifies that Obama's mother had apparently decided to exclude Barack from her passport renewal. Apparently, Stanley Ann Dunham Sotoro changed her mind about the exclusion. Perhaps this was done after having been informed by the consulate there that doing so would leave Barack without a passport. But there is another possibility, one just as valid and even simpler. What if Obama's mother was trying to include Obama in the renewal, but she wasn't able to produce a birth certificate, and the Subud name Sobarka simply did not suffice legally? That could explain why the name Sobarka appears nowhere else in any of Obama's documentation of which we are currently aware. But now for the real shocker in this entire matter. The staff at P.P. Simmons did some research and found an old picture of the founder of the cult of Subud, one Mohammed Sabu Sumohadi Wijojo. Do you see anything
This
odd
is crazy.
here?
It's bizarre.
Think about it.
Wow.
Fuddy, Obama's mother Dunham, Subud, Hawaii, Chicago, Indonesia, no birth certificate, Sobarka on the passport, a dead Hawaii Department of Health director, the one who conveniently certified Obama's forged and fabricated long-form birth certificate. Are all of these simply odd coincidences, or is there something more here? I have a feeling we will soon know the truth.
It is amazing. I mean, I urge you to watch the video and send it to your friends. It's yours for free. Without further ado, Jerry Corsi. Doc, have you seen that video that we just played a minute ago?
Yes, I have seen that one. I saw it over the weekend.
Yeah.
In fact, I've been working on it. I haven't filed it yet, but I mean, I'm working on the whole Subud connection, and I think it's pretty startling, really.
Yeah. Here, let me set this up. Without further ado, I think everyone who listens to radio shows I'm connected with knows this man. If you're new to us, he's a Harvard PhD. He's a longtime friend. We actually have met a couple of times. His name is Jerry Corsi, and he takes it where other people have not even dreamt of going, and he's one of those guys where it comes true. And I credited you when this story dropped on Thursday that you were the first guy to ever say to me, look at this. Where did you see Sui Barca for the first time? I remember, and we've talked about this the last couple of mornings, and when you've been with us, you were the worst human being sucking wind on the planet Earth, and I was like Satan's imp for having you on to talk about this. I wonder where all of those people are this morning, or where they were Friday or Thursday when the truth is found, right?
Well, I mean, look, I've been at this. I found it when those were first released. There was a release of the passport records of Ann Dunham, and this occurred maybe in 2011, 2010, maybe 2010. And I immediately went through them with a fine-tooth comb, and what jumped out at me was that this Soy Barca, that was one of the many things that jumped out, and I wrote about it in my book, Where's the Birth Certificate? That was, again, a major kind of discovery that there was this alternative name it sounded like Obama had Indonesian nationality. It was his nationality. His name had been changed, and she was crossing out the record. I read the instructions on the form. That's what the form instructed an applicant to do, is cross out the name if you were to take that person off your passport and put them on their own passport. There's a period of time when Barry Soetoro, Barack Obama, that's his name, was what he was called in Indonesia, was traveling alone even as a child. His mother would stay in Indonesia, and they would put him on an airplane and fly him to Hawaii. Obama talks about this in Dreams from My Father. So it all made sense that he had probably a passport, probably legally adopted in Indonesia by his stepfather, although those adoption papers have never come to light. And more documentation about Barack Obama we don't have. We don't have any Barack Obama's passport records. They're all gone or sealed. But in the mother's application, the Soy Barca indicated that crossing out of the name Barack Hussein Obama and then Soy Barca crossed out is pretty clear indication that her son was going by the name Soy Barca. It was an Indonesian surname, and that she wanted him to have his own passport.
Yeah. But the questions are legion. Who is? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, that's the problem with Obama, and I've made this point repeatedly, is that he really has all the trappings of an intelligence personality, someone who was created by the CIA, because the pieces of the background don't fit together.
Jerry, you know how crazy that sounds?
I know. But I've studied a lot of how CIA operates and the other intelligence agencies, and there's a fingerprint to it. A manufactured identity for a person is usually about 75% pretty good. Well, in other words, this good cover story. You say the person went to this school and he graduated here. Well, all that's pretty good because it fits together until you say, well, let me get the yearbook and let me see if there's pictures in the yearbook. Let me interview some of the people who went to school with him and see if they remember him. And when you begin that level of detailed research, intelligence fabricated bios fall apart. So the only way to protect them any long period of time is to make sure that people like me who are researching the background don't get access to the documentary evidence.
But here again, I stop you. Dr. Jerry Corsi is with us. People are looking at this video. This video floored me yesterday morning. It is, I think, well, how do I say it? It concisely solidifies everything that we're talking about in this. I was having breakfast with some people, and I was talking about this story because I had seen the video. And you remember when we were little kids in school, and not that I was any good you were, but they used to take sentences and they would, what did they call you, diagram a sentence, and there's a little.
Yes, I remember doing it.
Like there'd be a noun, this would be a pronoun, and this would be. And
there's a whole structure for it. There's a diagram tree that you put the verbs and the subject on, all of that.
A noun, a pronoun.
Yeah.
And it's like the Obama story, but all of a sudden something else drops out. And you have to have a whole new bracket, I guess, for this story. And when you take all the other stories and all the other pictures and all the other photoshopping and all the other bizarreness that surrounds this character, and now comes this. And I use the word MacGuffin because in reading Hitchcock's biography, Hitchcock had something in his movies always called the MacGuffin.
Right.
For instance, in the motion picture The Birds, it was the two lovebirds. Remember?
Right.
Well, that was the MacGuffin. And he used and is this a MacGuffin? Is this another key that unlocks a door? Is this another clue to what?
Well, mostly, see, the problem you have with Obama's background and identity is that it's not a complete fabrication by an intelligence agency. It's grafted onto some real-life data. In other words, here you get a kid that there's some deep secret at the birth, some identity secret that is just too deep and dark or can't be revealed. It's manufactured, and then the cover-up starts there. And once you begin fabricating, so you're grafting fictional onto real, and that's where it becomes very tricky because it's confusing. So, Obama's been in Indonesia, and the idea is, well, it was Lolo Soetoro, who was this student at the East-West Center from Indonesia who married Ann Dunham's second husband and brought Obama back. And then you get into the file and you realize that, the Ann Dunham really didn't want to go back. She tried to get the Immigration Naturalization Service to extend Lolo Soetoro's time. The INS would not do it. They go back into, the period 1965. Obama's 4 years old. This is one of the most violent times in the history of Indonesia.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because you've got the Sukarno, who's been in power, and Suharto, a Muslim who is taking over in a coup that CIA engineered.
That's right.
And yet somehow Obama skates through this without any obvious notice or reference that's going on around him and survives in a period of time when there's 500,000 people up to being killed in Indonesia, mostly many of them Christians and communists. And there's not a mention of this in Obama's Dreams for My Father. It's all idyllic. So you begin researching, you begin realizing that he's living in the kind of royal section of Jakarta, reserved for the royalty, the family of the royalty, the family of dignified, honored people.
Yeah, but in spite of the official story, didn't Stanley Ann work directly for or with the U.S. Embassy?
Well, she did for a while. She, for a brief period of time, she mostly moved into working with the Ford Foundation. At first, she couldn't have a job. She was trying to do these teaching positions. The embassy hired her in a very clerical kind of menial position. She took the job, but eventually she surfaced with this.
But she had already met Lolo, right, and gone with him to Indonesia.
Oh, she went to Indonesia as his wife.
Right.
Okay, so that's the point is that she was already married to him when she went. And she
meets him when she comes back from Seattle and re-enrolls in the University of Hawaii and meets this Indonesian guy, Lolo Soetoro. And then he's taken back, if my understanding, tell me, to go in the military, or he's put in the military when he gets back?
He is in the military. In fact, he's immediately taken back. He was in the military when he came over,
right.
and he is immediately taken back, and he is put into intelligence position in the Army,
right.
And he's now made to serve in the Army. That's Lolo Soetoro becomes a Indonesian military. Now, the story as it continues is that then Ann Dunham falls out of love with him. They begin fighting. He becomes alcoholic, just like the first husband. Right. The same story. Right. Of course, all these stories, again, are largely concocted. I mean, he may have been alcoholic. He may have, had all these problems. But Ann Dunham was not living with Barack Obama Sr. a day. They always had... They always had separate addresses, and it's unclear what the marriage was like in Indonesia. Whether it was these open marriages, there was a lot of swapping partners and everything else going on. It seems to have been, again, another story that wasn't really told. There's hints of it, but you can't find you just cannot find the details on this because suddenly she's no longer married to Lolo Soetoro, and he's off with a young girlfriend whom he married. Okay, so this whole story of this happy family, and Obama goes into two schools. One of them, is a Catholic school in Indonesia, in Jakarta, while he's there. And the schools at this time were, increasingly requiring, the laws were passed that you had to be a citizen to go to these schools. Now, he didn't have to be Muslim, but Obama took the Islamic instruction, and he was going to mosque, even in the Catholic school, with his father. And this is, again, well documented. The nuns were saying this. So Obama was in Indonesia as a child, and the questions are, why was he there? What was he doing? Why did he have such privilege? Why did he lie about getting all this Islamic instruction? And then Obama goes to Cairo right after he's president, and he says, I've experienced Islam on, 3 continents or 4 continents, he said.
I heard the
and
call.
Then he, so he's claiming Islam when it's convenient, and he's not claiming Islam when it's not convenient. And so, you're basically dealing with another pattern of disinformation. Because, see, what makes these cases so hard is you get information and disinformation. Disinformation is information put there intentionally to throw you off track.
So
You know,
if somebody's new to this discussion, or
yeah.
Jerry, what would you tell them?
Well, there's some very good books written on it if you really want to study it. I mean, it's well known. It's just not known like many things anymore because our schools are so deficient in what we're teaching. There's a lot that people just don't know, including basic history. Anyone who's studied diplomatic history or the wars, you know, the efforts in World War II to convince Hitler we were going to attack in not at Normandy, but at Calais, all these efforts. Well, there's lots of literature. There's a lot of discussion available about how intelligence operations function. And, I mean, even if you watch some History Channel specials, you're going to occasionally find a good one where they are discussing these issues. But the vast majority of Americans just take what they're told at face value, if they take it at all, and don't realize that the function, the purpose of intelligence agencies is largely to lie. And to lie to us, lie to the people is what that's the problem.
Final question in the segment. Do you believe that you know, and I'm saying knowing and believing are two separate things, but do you believe that you have a handle on the truth of Barack Obama's life?
No.
Yeah, great. That's the answer I was hoping you were going to say, because I get these emails that these people know, and I said, I don't know how you could know. These are simply, well, something like what happened last week, and again, you know, it's hats off to you as always, but something that happened like it did last week, it just...
Yeah, there's too much secret yet. There's too much that is not told. There's too many lies. There's too many records I can't get a hold of. There are too many mysteries and things that don't fit together. And it was done very, you know, whoever put Barack Obama's, you know, personality, his character, his documentation together, knew what they were doing. And it was done very recently. People forget that, you know, the current head of the CIA, John Brennan, his security firm in 2008, private security firm, went in and accessed Barack Obama's records and sanitized his passport records.
Well, no, I mean, that whole break-in where the
break-in, and, you know, so Barack Obama's records may not even exist anymore.
Well said.
In any form where you could get a hold of them and look at them and try to decipher them.
Even that, I was telling somebody about this yesterday, even when that bizarre picture dropped of the presidential passport, they found a way not to ever see the numbers of the passport, or they covered things with their hands, and they said, here's the president's passport, and it was mugged itself, that if you were in clarity of seeing a passport, you couldn't have seen it.
Well, there were a lot of discrepancies about that. I mean,
and that's a one-of-a-kind passport. There's only one every year, and it's one
also
issued,
I believe it had Barack Obama II on it.
Yes, it did.
That's not supposed to be his real name.
That's right.
I mean, you know, the second is something that has to be on your birth certificate, and it wasn't on the birth certificate.
No, I agree.
So, you know, there's so many of these things that, to me, I have no doubt that Barack Obama, we're dealing with a fictionalized, we don't know who Barack Obama is. We don't really know who his father was. He probably didn't know. The Immigration Naturalization Service in 1961 was not going to allow Barack Obama's, the African, to get an extension of his visa if he claimed he was married to Ann Dunham and this was the child, because they didn't believe it, and they put that in the record. One of those pages slipped out. We have that page. So, you know, who is the guy? What's his real name? What's his identity? How many countries has he been in? You read some of these new biographies that come out, it looks like Barack Obama traveled internationally very widely. Well, what passport did he use?
And
why don't we have an account of what he was doing in those years?
Who did he tell Colombia he was? Who did he tell Occidental he was?
And, well, why does Colombia only, when they reported originally to the College Reporting Service, only say Obama attended 1 year? I have that record from them. As soon as we published that and wrote it, they changed it and said, oh, no, we made a mistake. It was 2 years. Well, no, it wasn't. In their records was what they sent me, which is he was there 1 year. Now, again, all these things, the more you uncover them, the more you get into them, you realize the pieces that are missing, the pieces that don't fit together, and the light bulb's got to go off, and you realize you're dealing with an intelligence agency-created identity.
Wow.
And you're not supposed to be able to figure it out.
I'm going to pull it here. We'll talk again tomorrow. When is your piece going to drop?
I'm not sure. I mean, it may be requiring a lot more work before we publish anything, because this is getting to be a lot more there. And, you know, I'm seeing now a whole piece of, when I encountered this Sabood with Fuddy, and it was clear that Fuddy was Sabood, a member of the sect. When I saw the picture of the founder of the sect, which was pretty startling.
That's really startling. We have that. I'm sorry.
So, you know, before I'm going to get much more into this, I want to, you know, make sure I have a better grasp on the whole story. So and Ann Dunham, see, another thing, Ann Dunham was affiliated with the group. She knew, but she didn't join the group. So, you know, some of the stuff that people are doing out on the Internet right now is a little ahead of where we really are. We know that Fuddy was a member. We know that Ann Dunham was associated, but Ann Dunham was associated with all these different religions, and it doesn't look like she really joined anything. She took pieces from what she liked. And, you know, it was kind of, I think, the final analysis, almost a pantheist. In other words, you know, any idea.
Whatever
was okay with Ann Dunham. That seems to be the conclusion. At any rate, you know, Ann Dunham's a mystery, too. We don't have all the Ann Dunham story.
What's the great story? It's what applies at the time. Home run. Thank you, sir. The video is special. Your work is always, and again, maybe the time will come.
It will, Peter. It always does.
Yeah.
Someone's got the file.
Yeah.
You know, these things all may take 50 years for it to develop, just like the Kennedy assassination. But, you know, we're much further along in the Kennedy assassination today than we were. And, you know, hopefully before I'm gone, we'll have the opportunity to see the truth on that. And it'll be the same with the Obama story. The truth will come out.
What Shakespeare say? Truth will out.
It's in the Bible. You can't hide the truth. It eventually comes out.
God love you, Jeff. Thanks, Doc. And we'll talk maybe as soon as tomorrow. Thank you. Dr. Jerry Corsi. Again, the website, 710knus.com. Watch the video. Back right after this.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.